Hi, this is Brendan from Watto Training, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at some of the examples of errors that people make on QSafe test forms and how those are interpreted. Here's a picture of the QSafe test form. In the top section we have the applicant's details. Section A, we've got the specific driving situations, so these are some of the situations the examiner will take the student in. Then we've got the maneuvers over here. Here's the car maneuvers, here's the truck maneuvers. Then we have whether the student was successful, unsuccessful, or test terminated. The assessor's appraisal for the student is in this section here. Down here we've got records for different types of errors, which I'll go through shortly, including the general critical errors, which is through this middle strip here. Down on the bottom left we've got the pre-drive checks that the examiner will conduct before the test. We've got section D, which is vehicle operational skills, and we've got section E, which is hazard recognition and decision-making skills. Now let's look at the types of driving errors in the QSafe testing system. The first type of error is the non-critical driving error, which is abbreviated to NCDE. These are errors that do not compromise safety to road users or the safe operation of the vehicle. So it's an error that has been made, it's been observed by the examiner and acknowledged, and it will be recorded on the test form, but because safety is not compromised, it doesn't become a critical error. Okay, so critical errors, these errors that are the ones that compromise safety of any road user or indicate an inappropriate level of skill or ability. An example of this would be driving straight through a stop sign, or driving through a red light, or driving 10 k's over the speed limit, something like that. Then next we've got the general critical driving errors. These are special types of critical driving errors that are not directly related to any of the individual performance checks on the test form. If an applicant accrues a GCDE, the test is terminated and they are directed back to the testing centre by the shortest or safest possible route. These are the types of GCDEs that we find on the test form. The examiner is required to intervene either verbally, such as yelling out stop, or physically grabbing the steering wheel. The test vehicle strikes another object, curb, sign, power pole. A dangerous situation is created by the applicant's driving, which results in another road user being forced to take evasive action to prevent a collision or any other danger. And finally, an applicant disobeys direction from a police officer, school crossing supervisor, and/or authorised traffic controller. Then we've got what's called a specific repeated driving error, an SRDE. An SRDE is marked when an applicant accrues 6 non-critical driving errors for a certain performance check. SRDEs can only be marked for a few of the performance checks, such as clutch, steering, and observation and scanning. Let's take a look at some of the examples of errors on the QSafe test form. Here's example number 1. I'm just going to use the little cursor here to assist me. So here's our non-critical driving errors. And the first one is that the student was found to be clutch coasting. The student also made 3 gear errors. The student made 1 non-critical error for observation and scanning. And the student made 2 judgment errors. So in total we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 non-criticals, 0 specific repeated errors, and 0 critical driving errors. Remember, specific repeated errors are only on certain performance checks, so there's actually no little box there, so they can't get a specific repeated error on that one. Okay, let's go on to so this person would have actually been successful on the driving test based on that information, because you are unsuccessful on the test if you get 9 or more errors. So within this driving assessment, the student had 1 more error up their sleeve, but if they would have got 2 more errors, that would have pushed them to 9 and they would have been unsuccessful. Okay, let's go on to the next one, example 2. First of all, we've got an error for stalling. So I take it this is a manual test, and also we can see it's a truck test because we've got MRH, HRHC. They put a few more boxes in here for gear errors for the heavy vehicles. We've got 1, 2, 3. So this is probably a road ranger, like an Eaton Fuller. means the student's doubling the clutch, and sometimes that leads to a few little bumps and grinds on the gear. Down here we've got braking, 1, 2, 3 errors. Again, no specific repeated driving error box here. Then we go over here and we've got an error for mirrors, an error for signaling, which is must have been incorrect use of indicators. We've got 2 non-critical errors for judgment. We've got 1 non-critical error for signs, signals, and markings. And we've got an error for the sequence of uncouple, recouple. For those of you who are not aware, in a semi-trailer test, which is the class HC, heavy combination, the student, as part of the test, has to uncouple and recouple the trailer. So take it off, move forward, then move back and put it back on. Okay, so this student would have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 non-critical errors. The student needs more training, or else they were super nervous. But again, one of the best ways to overcome nerves is more practice. Let's go to example 3. Now, we can only see one cross here, but it's a critical driving error. So this student has got a steering operation error. They've probably taken both hands off the wheel whilst the vehicle's moving to get that error. No non-criticals, no specific repeated. So this student's probably a pretty good driver, or else they made this error very early before they had any other errors. So they would be unsuccessful. Okay, this example, number 4, shows us that the student had 1 clutch non-critical, another non-critical driving error for clutch coasting. Again, this is a heavy vehicle example here. So the student has actually been unsuccessful because they've got a specific repeated driving error, because we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th time the examiner notices the student making some sort of a skill error with the gears, they would be unsuccessful. Okay, down here we've got a braking error for non-critical, and we've got observation and scanning, and we've got mirrors. So this student looks like they need some more work on their gears. Now, you know, the question that one would say is, where do we practice gears? Well, driving up and down through a built-up area with traffic lights, the traffic lights will change and the student will have to go up and down the gears. Other areas are going into roundabouts, turning left and right. They're also good spots to get gear practice happening. Okay, let's go on to our final example, example 5. And I've just added in a little bit more of the DRA report form here, the assessment report form. We've got 1 error for maneuver positions. So there must have been something about the positioning of a maneuver that the student did in the assessment. So they might have been a little bit too far out from the curb or something after a reverse park, who knows. Either way, what's actually happened here is the student has got a general critical driving error through this strip here, and that student, unfortunately, will have been unsuccessful in the driving assessment. So even though it looks here like they did a lot of things at a high standard and got 1 non-critical, they collided with something. So it could have been, as we saw in the notes earlier, it could have been a wheelie bin or a power pole or a tree or a curb or something like that. So this student, unfortunately, whether it be nerves or just lack of practice, needs a little bit more work on that area. Okay, this has been Brendan from Watto Training. Thanks for watching, and safe driving, and all the best with your instructing.